Can you hear me okay? Because I don't have
I can hear you just fine. Testing,
Okay.
1, 2, 3. So hello everyone. I'm so excited that here we have Stephanie from the Social Change Leaders podcast, which I'm so excited that anybody would think of me as a social change leader. So welcome, Stephanie.
You are, Jules. You are leading the way.
Well, thanks so much for agreeing to have this little interview with me. Yeah, I'm just really honored to have you. Thank you. And now I'm making it sound like I'm about to interview you.
No, I'm going to interview you.
Well, we should say discussion.
Yeah, let's talk.
We're just going to talk.
So, yes, well, let's talk about, should we start with maybe a little bit of your journey coming to where you are today and what has brought you to this, to what you've created with Seraph 7 Studios. So do you want to talk kind of what are some of the experiences and information that really shaped your journey to launch this company?
Absolutely. I feel like I should just give a quick overview of the background and bring us up to speed in like 2 minutes if I can.
Yeah, so, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I was born and raised here in Minnesota. So I am a native of Minnesota, which I think is rare. Most people kind of come here from other places. So I went to college at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee. And then from there, I joined the Marine Corps. I served as an engineer and as a diplomatic security guard. So I got a chance to travel the world pretty much the whole 4 years that I was in. And that was an amazing experience. I mean, the Marine Corps is only 5% female. So there were a lot of challenges that I had to face. But I excelled. I was able to become a sergeant in 2 years and 10 months. And it takes a lot of people about 4 years to become a sergeant in the Marine Corps. And so that was from a lot of hard work. And I was even the honor graduate in my engineering courses. I beat all the guys. I was the company commander. And that was also just from hard work and studying and putting in the work. And so that showed me that, hey, hard work, at least in the military, will actually pay off. You know, in the real world, you have other factors, right? You got politics, you have like and all these other things. But when I got out, I finished up my aeronautics degree and I finished my degree in seminary. So I have a theology degree. I worked a little bit in Texas as a corporate security manager and in Atlanta. While I was in Atlanta, that's when we had 2 tragic deaths in my life. So one was the death of my grandmother. She really pushed me to become a lawyer. She just thought I'd make a great advocate because I love to argue. I love to go back and research if people told me I was wrong. So I could come back with a bunch of facts and say I was right. And I like to take up for the little guy always. But then there was also the death, right?
Yeah, so she really helped like develop that in you.
She did. She was one of the smartest people that I knew. Like she just had degrees in all these different things and I could ask her a question and she knew the answers and they were very long answers. So as a little kid, I was like, oh my God. I remember I asked her a question about makeup and I was like 7 or 8 and she told me like the origins of makeup, which civilizations first started wearing, you know, paint on their face and how that developed in the cosmetic industry. And I was like, what? So she was like Google before Google, you know. But then there was the death of Trayvon Martin, you know, and with his death, I mean, that just really shook me up a lot because I realized that while I was passionate about so many issues civically and socially, that there wasn't, I just felt powerless. Like there was nothing that I could do if somebody were to kill like my younger brother, who looks a lot like Trayvon Martin, who wore hoodies, who would walk around at night, but who was like a Yale graduate. So if somebody would stop him, they wouldn't say, hey, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Or did you graduate from Yale? They're not going to ask those questions. They're just going to see a young Black man in a hoodie and make all sorts of assumptions. And if they were to kill him, then my family wouldn't have justice. That family, likely there'd be a GoFundMe set up. They'd get all this money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay their legal fees, to hire security. And meanwhile, everybody else is worse off. And so I just wanted some power to have some say to protect my family and to understand how to protect, you know, others in the community. And Dr. Artika Tyner, who was a professor at the time over at the University of St. Thomas, did a TED talk, and she said that the law is the language of power. And that really resonated with me, you know, especially feeling so powerless. And so I went into law school at St. Thomas. Dr. Tyner is now my mentor.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I feel not only is the law is a language of power, but while I was there, I realized that, you know, media is actually so important, because changing the law is great. It gives people consequences. You can hold them accountable, but that doesn't stop that rot of racism that affects the heart. And you have to do something different than the law to get there. And so while I was a law student, I started going to business school, and I also helped develop a course for the law school called Race Practice and the Pursuit of Justice. And
I just have to say, Jules, I mean, I can tell you have your grandmother in you, because obviously, like this now, like you have such a thirst for knowledge and the ability to get numerous degrees in very different disciplines is, I think, one of the more something that's so fascinating about you. Just like, and you bring it all together and how you use it. So sorry. So you were in law, so you're getting your JD, and then you also worked on your MBA as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because I realized, you know, business, you know, being able to give people jobs at a paying wage, teaching people skills, and especially doing so in a way that helps them also control and own their own narrative in the way that the media is portraying them is very powerful. So many people get their ideas of American society, of the Black community, through media, and especially people who don't have much interactions with people outside of their race. But it goes beyond that. People who, I mean, just little Black kids, right, get perceptions of who they are and what their place is in society from the media. There was a test that they did. I think it was like, not a test, but like a study back in the 60s. And they recently did it again in like the like the early 2000s, like the first decade. But it was basically they gave little Black girls dolls that range from Black to white. And they asked little girls, which doll is the pretty doll? And they would point to the white doll. Which doll is the ugly doll? They would point to the Black doll. Which doll is the smart doll? Point to the white doll. Which doll is the stupid doll? They would point to the dark, you know, the dark skinned Black doll. And that was the same in the 60s, and it was the same in the early 2000s. So the messages that we're sending to our kids is one that we should be ashamed of the color of our skin. It's one that we are villains, we're not smart, we're not attractive. And that couldn't be furthest from the truth. And so to change those images that are going out there, showing Black people as heroes, showing people of color as heroes, you know, out of the video game industry has been around for 50 years. And less than 3% of the characters are Black, Hispanic, or Native. And from there, in the video game industry. And those 3% of characters that you can play as, they're not necessarily heroes. They're gangsters, drug dealers, mobsters. They all have a level of moral deficiency. They're not positive, pure heroes. And even just lately, so I love, you know, Batman, and, you know, I love superheroes. So there's a Batwoman series. So they replaced the original Batwoman with a new Batwoman actress who's a Black female actress, and they made a new Batwoman character just for her. But the problem is she's not a pure hero. She's a former drug dealer. And I'm just like, here we go again. Another Black superhero, former drug dealer. Like, come on, we can do better than that. That doesn't reflect, you know, what I know of Black women. Yeah. And so that's where my company came about.
So that's, okay, so JD, you have your MBA.
Yeah,
and you
did
some work, or you practice law. I know you were working for a judge and doing in that field, but video games. Now, were you a gamer? I mean, did you play video games already before you started this company? Was that a passion of yours?
Absolutely. I am a lifelong gamer from the days of Super Nintendo. Yeah, some Super Mario Brothers 2, Mega Man, Tecmo Bowl. I was especially good at Tecmo Bowl because I figured out, you know, the trick. And the trick in Tecmo Bowl was, that's a football game. So they'd hike the ball to you, and you run all the way back to your end zone, right? And it was because the AI was scripted to follow you if you had the ball. So the entire opposing team would be running towards you while the rest of your team would be fully open. So you run all the way back and you just throw up a Hail Mary, your guy catches it and just goes into the end zone.
Wow.
The
Wow.
limitations of early software.
Right. Okay, so you had the passion for the video games, but you had
Yes.
never designed a video game, had you?
No, I never designed a video game. And even though I knew how to code, coding for consoles is so different because it's not just C++ or C# if you're coding on Unity, but you have to actually learn the development engine in order to develop the game.
And when you're saying a console, for those of us who are not video gamers, although I should have my son here because he would understand this better, but the console's like what you're playing the game on, right?
Yeah, so Nintendo, okay. Xbox, PlayStation.
So those are consoles, and that's like a very specific way that you have to develop games that you have to do the coding. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's different than mobile apps and from your traditional computer games. Yeah.
Okay, so you had to, so your idea was, but what was the idea? Like, so you're sitting there and you're thinking about media and some of the statistics you shared, and obviously recognizing the importance of how do we have just more diversity of characters, more, and as you said, like powerful, positive characters and role models. And so did you think right away, okay, video games, or what was sort of your process to like start thinking about starting this company?
Well, when I was at St. Thomas, I went on these spiritual retreats. So I was on the spiritual life committee. And one of the things that they pushed us to do was to consider what our calling is. And in doing that, we had to look at what are my natural skills and talents? Mm-hmm. What issues right now does my community really need me to help solve, and how can I use my skills and talents to help solve them? And while I went through that process many times, what I found was, while being a lawyer is extremely important, especially when I'm helping underserved communities, like I was able to represent vulnerable elders, as well as just vulnerable people in the community who couldn't afford attorneys while I was still a law student and working as a certified student attorney. And that was very powerful to me. But I realized that I could reach an even broader audience and provide even more help, not only with jobs and better representation and reaching 2.5 billion people who play video games, but also there's some things like economic disparities, educational disparities, when it comes to kids of color and STEAM. I mean, and really, and STEAM is, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And really students of all races need to learn STEAM and also learn how to work in multicultural teams. And so I just kind of saw, hey, there's an opportunity to do something here as well, because the Wilder Foundation, which is a foundation here in Minnesota, found that, hey, students of all races in Minnesota are equally excited about STEAM, but it's students of color, and especially Black students, who are least equipped to succeed in STEAM courses in college and in STEAM careers. So we need to do something to change that. And also they found that students of all races in elementary school lag behind the nation when it comes to hours spent on science curriculum, which I thought was very interesting. So like, what can we do to boost that? And also, Minnesota is not a hub for video games. We don't have any like huge video game companies here. Those are mostly on the West Coast. California. That's not our thing here. So in order to really have this robust company, I also need to invest in the community so I can have some great workers here and employees. And by doing so, I mean, video game industry jobs are about $80,000 a year entry level without a college degree, just by knowing the programming language, by knowing how to use the engine. And students here in Minnesota, family of four, median income ranges between $31,000 and $33,000 if they're Black, $27,000 if they're Native, but $83,000 if they're a white family of four. So there's a huge disparity. So by teaching kids in the community how to code for console video games, preparing them for jobs and careers, one, it boosts their confidence in STEAM. Now they're excited, they have mentorship. Two, it boosts their competency. Three, this is a work study program, so they'll also get a paycheck. They'll get high school credit, they'll get college credit. So it gets, hits some of those things right there. But now they're also prepared for $80,000 a year entry-level jobs, which is, what what their family struggled to make for the past 2 years, they can now make in 1 year. And I think that's true economic power and change. And then I can employ them. They stay in the community, right? Their tax dollars stay in the community. We can start building up the schools. I can expand my social programs. It just seems like it's such a great idea and such a great and novel solution.
Right. So, and let's talk a little bit more about that programming component. And then I want to talk about the game you're creating and some of the images we're seeing with you. But since we're on that topic of, so how does that fit in with your business model? So what is that STEAM, that education piece? So talk just a little bit more about how that fits in with your model of what you're doing, and that really that social impact piece.
So I have so right now my company is an LLC, but I do have my paperwork submitted to become a Minnesota Public Benefits Corporation. And with that, every year I file about, the things that my companies do to benefit the public as a whole. But it also really allows me to invest money from the video game company into the social program curriculum. So even though to get everything started, I do need help with funding, once my first game goes out, I'll be able to be self-sufficient both with my video game company and with the curriculum development. And what's just really important, I mean, I don't see Seraph 7, right, as just being a regular video game development company that makes games, gets $35 million the next year after they release it, and don't do things to really uplift the community that they're in, and the kids around them. Like, my company is the only company that has such a program in the video game field. And so that's also really big.
Awesome. So, so do you want to talk about so you actually are also developing a game, and although I'm sure you probably have several, but I know I've heard kind of about one, and I can see some of those, the characters that you have. And do you just want to talk about, so you had to learn how to do the coding for councils, you had to learn how to create it, and you've done that, which is incredible. I mean, it's really the characters you've developed are so cool. Do you want to talk about your own development and what you're creating right now?
Absolutely. And I just realized too that I probably should have mentioned that for the curriculum development, the goal is to have the curriculum developed while I'm working on the first game. So I'm still working on the first game now. And there's a team called Leaders for Education, and they're a team of 4 retired administrators, educational administrators in the state of Minnesota. So they're going to be developing the curriculum and helping me form partnerships with local schools, high schools, and colleges, which is really great. And so I really want it to be a robust program where students are able to learn, where there's metrics and things like that. They're not just going to show up and play video games all day. They're actually going to be held accountable to a curriculum.
Right.
But
is that, I was just gonna say, is that program, is the idea that that's in the schools, or it's external of the schools, but you're partnering with them to get students who are interested? Or
exactly. So it'll be external. So the goal is to help ensure that they can get busing to my location, and they'll work on, well, I mean, I know with COVID that may have to change a little bit, but this isn't scheduled to start until the development of my second game. So by that time, hopefully a lot of the COVID fears will have died down and the risks. But hopefully they'll be bused for part of their school day. It'll be like the end of the day. It'll be part of their school curriculum, so they'll get high school credit for it, kind of like a regular work study program. But with that, they'll learn art, a little bit of computer language, architecture, 3D modeling, animation, storyboarding, how to research and make these characters come to life. There's so many different disciplines that you have to put together to make a video game, even like cinematography. So they're going to just learn how to just think so creatively and so differently, and merge the two halves of their brains together to produce this awesome game. Is the goal. Yeah. So, but yeah, to answer your question, it'll be part of their school day, which is what I want. Because I know it's hard for kids sometimes to get to extracurricular activities, especially if they might have homework and other things to do. So I want this to be an actual high school class for them.
Right. Great.
Yeah. But to answer your question about the
it is pretty cool, the work that you're doing, what you're creating. So yeah, let's hear some more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to learn how to create all of this thanks to the Finnovation Lab and the Fin Fellowship, because I was able to have the time that I needed to really sit down and learn how to do these things and kind of face my fears. Like when I first started the fellowship, I really thought I was going to need to hire an artist, hire all these people before I could really even get started on the game. And then I was like, you know what, Jules, you have to face this. You need to learn how to do this. My grandfather once told me that nothing that man can, or everything that man can conceive, I can achieve. So I can do it. If somebody else has done it before, I can learn how to do it. And so that helped me just push through my fears, sit down. And I think all of November, I spent that learning how to make 3D models, learning how to use Photoshop, learning how to use Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere, and all these different programs. And it was time extremely well spent. As you could see, you know, I didn't know how to make these characters in November of 2019. And now I'm rocking.
Tell us about, because I mean, what I love too is you, all your characters have a story. There's a lot of intention behind them. So do you want to share at least one of your characters or talk about them to kind of explain, so people understand the thought that you put into it and the intention?
Absolutely. So I can do a couple real quick. So the one behind me, wrong side, this side, right behind me, over here. Can you see my hand?
The white hair?
Yes, with the white hair. That is my newest character. She is an unnamed hero. I actually had a naming contest where people submitted names. And so that contest ended on Friday of last week. And so we're going through the submissions to see who wins, and the winner gets gaming mouse pads are huge. They can fit your keyboard and your mouse. So anyway, they're going to win one of those with some Seraph 7 art, so it's really cool. So the idea behind her is I wanted people in the naming contest to actually look at her. I feel like so many times that people don't actually look at Black people. Like they look past us, they look through us, they glance at us. But just to take the time to stop and really look. And so I filled her with so much detail, and I put a story on her body that I really wanted people to look at her and to see and to imagine what that story could be. So I'm going to move myself here. Okay, so this right here is Miss Billie. And she's really a huge shout out to my family. So she is the Mississippi Supersonic. Her name is Billie Mahalia Rudolph. So named for Billie Holiday, Mahalia Jackson, and Wilma Rudolph. She's a speedster. So I designed her because I wanted her to look like she would fit right in at my family reunion. She looks so much like my cousins and some of my aunts that it's really uncanny. And I made her from the same town that a lot of my family's from in Mississippi. And she's a speedster. Yeah. And she could tell when you're lying because she can hear your body rhythms. I think it's a power that, you know, many of our mothers and our grandmothers have, is they can always look at us and be like, you're lying. You're not telling the truth. I know you. She has that power for everyone. So I'm going to move this way. All right, so this is Granny Kel. So Granny Kel, she's kind of an anti-hero. She's like that wicked witch that you don't know if you should eat the apple or not that she hands you. But she's also a breast cancer survivor. So these really cool helms that I have her wear, it's because she went through chemo, she lost her hair, but she's still rocking it. She found that she's fierce, you know, regardless. And I just felt it was really I felt it'd be really cool to have a character who's gone through some real world things. And I lost an aunt to breast cancer. And I think many people have had that experience of you know, being a loved one of someone who's facing that's such a diagnosis. And so I wanted to really make her a hero and a real survivor.
Also reminding me that I know in our other conversations too, being intentional about having different ages of characters, and that so like people who are older and they're still like very powerful and strong, and just also that aspect, which I think is really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, my first game is old people duking it out in Mortal Kombat. You know, they have an underground fight club, and you know, they're still fighting bad guys. Yeah. And so the last one here, this is Nazca. Oops, over here. Oh no, so everything's so backwards on my screen. Okay, her name is Nazca, and she's an Incan warrior. So she's still pretty new, so her bio is still being developed. But yeah, I think she's very striking.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know a lot about video games, but I mean, your characters are so they're just like they're beautiful. They're like works of art, really.
Thank you. Oh man,
Yeah.
such a great compliment.
So cool. And so what is the first game that's coming out? Or do you want to talk just a little bit about what's happening with your company and what are the different, kind of in the rest of this year and into next, what are the things you hope to accomplish?
Absolutely. So the first game is called Ultimate Elder Battle Royale. It's an over-the-top name because it's an over-the-top game. It's basically, it's like, hey, Batman and Superman right now are about 90 years old. Like they were created 90 years ago. So, right.
Amazing.
So what if they were still fighting crime, right? What if, they were still out there trying to fight bad guys? And that's the premise behind this game. So these folks are in retirement homes, but they still have a little fight in them. So it's really fun. And it's like some of their battles are a bit different. They might be fighting because, somebody, took their favorite thing out of the refrigerator or something crazy. What old folks fight about? What they have to argue about. No. But that game is going to be released on consoles. The goal is to have it done and released in 2021. Beforehand, I have a playable demo, and it's called Elder Battle Alpha, and that'll be released on itch.io. So it'll be released on computers to give people a look at what the bigger game will be. And they get a taste of the characters and how they play. And they're also helping me alpha test the game, hence the Elder Battle Alpha. So
that's so great. And then with the programming piece of it, so, and you're doing the curriculum development right now, is that or what's sort of your rollout for that?
So the curriculum development, the whole goal is to have it started as soon as possible. And then I want it to be done by in 2021, and then it'll be ready for the 2022-2023 school year. I believe I got that right. Yeah, because that's when I'll start the second game. So that way it gives me a chance to have one game under my belt before I start teaching others how to make the games as well.
Right.
Yeah. So that should be a good time.
That's.
I think. Oh, I felt like I had something to say, but it's not there anymore.
Well, also, do you want to touch on just the video game industry overall and the sort of the opportunity really to join that industry and just like the way that it's continuing to grow, right, as form of entertainment? What is the future, like video game? This is a good place to be.
Exactly. The future is now. I think there's so many stereotypes is everywhere. And one of the stereotypes is that, video gamers are 25-year-old kids who live in their parents' basement eating Cheetos. Yeah. When the reality is they're like 35-year-old parents. They're civically engaged. They, they have careers, have kids and all. Anyway. So, but the biggest misconceptions about the industry.
They're lawyers and MBAs. And
they're folks like me. We walk among you. We walk among you. We do. So no, but the video game industry, people don't realize that it's bigger than television. It is bigger than sports, and it is bigger than films worldwide. It is the biggest part of the sports and entertainment industry.
You mean from a financial perspective?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Perspective. So it's a $164 billion industry, and it has about 11% year-over-year growth. And every year that's underestimated. It keeps growing. It keeps surpassing expectations.
And I'm going to say COVID, I think, might.
Yeah, sales skyrocketed. I was like, man, I wish my game was done. Yeah. Yeah, so this really is a really good industry to be in, and especially me. So I make mid-tier games. So as you can see, my graphics, I don't really do like cartoon independent game graphics. I want to produce photorealistic graphics and animations for my games. So I'll be right in the mid-tier range, and the goal is to release the game at a $39.99 price point on consoles, which is really good. Consoles, their games usually sell for $60. So I'll be below that with recognition that I'm a mid-tier developer.
Wow.
I know, but it's exciting because I think like when you mentioned the older characters, I think it's a really fun way to sneak some diversity in there, because it's not only diversity with the elders, but having elders of all different races. What people are really looking at though is that, oh, this is an old person doing something crazy, not even realizing that they're also learning a little bit of cultural competency as they go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Just seeing all of the characters that you have and the diversity of that is very powerful.
Absolutely.
Dream.
Yeah, representation is very powerful in so many
Right.
ways.
Right.
Well, awesome, Stephanie. I
Yeah.
think
What else is there anything else you feel like we didn't cover or that
I
you
think
wanted to say?
I think we touched a lot of great things. So, I probably should clarify that my Fun Women campaign, that it's to fund my curriculum for the first game. So I'm going to need $25,000 in order to fund the curriculum. But my goal will be $15,000. So, and what's great about the platform is it's really a platform where they attract people who want to support women companies. And I think that's a great benefit over, places like Kickstarter, where it's just kind of everybody goes there, and they give so much support and coaching and videos that really help out.
Good.
I'm excited.
Yes. Do you have to do I mean, I'm just asking you these questions.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
you have to so what is the process? You have to submit an application, or have you already done that and you have to kind of get your materials ready, or what's the process for the
Yeah, they actually have a really cool training program that walks you through beforehand, and it's optional whether you want to do it, but I would absolutely suggest doing it. But it walks you through how to get ready for your crowdfunding campaign, including like just making a list of all the people in your network and really thinking hard about, okay, what would it take for them to donate to your campaign? What kind of, prizes or rewards would they want for donating? I think before I had all kinds of things that I thought were really cool, but I was like, okay, what about the people in my network? Oh, they would want things like mouse pads and coffee mugs. Like that's how they would kind of show their support. It's things that are more professional that they can have in the office, but isn't too over the top.
Right.
T-shirts maybe. Yeah. And puzzles. I learned that a lot of the people in my network really like puzzles. Yeah. Yeah. I even have a friend who mounts them.
Characters?
Yeah, so I would have a puzzle with different Seraph 7 characters and scenes that people could put on together.
I like that.
See, it's fun.
Wait, so once you have your campaign, then we can get that stuff?
Yeah, so I'm treating it kind of like as my merch store for social good.
Yeah.
So people can go there, they can donate and get, a puzzle or mouse pad or whatever it is that they would like. Yeah, it's really fun.
That's really cool. That's so exciting. And with the Minnesota Cup.
Yes, the Minnesota Cup is super exciting. It's top of mind because all that stuff's due on Sunday.
And then what happens after Sunday?
After Sunday, the judges deliberate, and then they narrow it down, I think, to the top 3 teams, and those in each division. So I'm in the Impact Ventures division. And so the way that works is the top 3 teams are competing for $50,000. And then the team that wins that $50,000 gets a chance to compete in the Grand Cup, which is where they compete for an additional $30,000. So you can win up to $80,000.
Oh, so in the Impact, they'll narrow it to top 3. So within your own division, one of the 3 people will get 50,000.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I want to be one of those 3 people that gets that shot.
Yeah. But is Mohammed and Judd in Impact as well?
I believe so. I know I have stiff competition.
Right.
This is not going to be easy. Because they're both phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, can I grab my son quick to say hi?
Oh, please. I'm going to stop recording. Yeah, bring him down. Hey, thanks for checking out this great discussion with me and Stephanie from the Social Change Leaders podcast. Check out my iFund Women campaign and make sure you check back soon for updates.